Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing related tweets, so you can subscribe to the channel, click that notifications button and get a new notification whenever a new video is uploaded. I've just uploaded the Parker Chisora post-fight review. I saw the fight today and yeah, I've done a little analysis on particularly Joseph Parker, some of the things I feel he needs to improve on or could have improved that in that specific performance. Check that out. Let me know what you think. Let's to talk about another couple of fights on the card. Firstly, we'll start off with Chris Eubank Jr. Obviously, I'd spoken pre-fight about how I found it, interesting that he linked up with Roy Jones Jr. and how maybe psychologically this could be the guy perhaps to finally be able to capture the attention and hold the attention of Chris Eubank. And the fact that although they're very different styles of fighters and had different physical attributes, they were both athletic in their own way, and maybe Roy Jones would be able to help maximize some of the assets that Chris Eubank has and to help him develop himself more as a fighter. However, just because you're a specific style of fighter, it doesn't mean that as a trainer you have to turn that guy into yourself. It doesn't mean, if you were a pressure fighter, it doesn't mean that the only thing you could teach is pressure fighting. You might understand the concepts of how to box and move and know what's right. It just didn't suit your specific game for whatever reason. It doesn't, do you see what I'm saying? Well, Roy Jones Jr. seemed to just create a clone of himself in those first 4 rounds. I didn't understand it. It looked like there was a lot of that posturing, just like he'd be in range and then just sort of step back, almost teasing Morrison to throw a shot, hoping he could throw a one-off counter. He'd, turn off and show part of the elbow, part of the shoulder, and then, the shot would potentially come in and he'd be hoping to just slip with it, pull and counter. That's not who Chris Eubank is. First and foremost, Chris Eubank doesn't have long power. His long jab, his long right hand, they're not really that great. Where Eubank excels is the stamina of his vicious, fast assaults. He's able to sustain vicious and fast assaults. And not just that, when he gets on the inside, even if you're throwing with him, he will turn off really well. The timing of how he moves to your shots to then generate his shots back is really, really good. But additionally to that, he generates leverage. You might be right next to him and you're struggling to find that right leverage. He will roll or just take a little step out, one foot, bring that 1 foot back a bit more, just to create a bit more space, to then roll and throw an uppercut through the middle or wide hooks around your guard. And they're powerful and they're fast. And yeah, he's very, very effective at it. He's very, very good at that. You don't want to take him away from that. One of the issues that he has is that when he has to close the range on a fighter and he has to go chasing, he struggles to do that. He struggles to bypass the jab. We saw Korobov before his injury setting traps for Eubank that Eubank was walking right into. We saw Eubank walking straight into powerful left jabs and right crosses from George Groves. And he was in a lot of trouble early in that fight, it seemed. These are the areas you saw him. He couldn't bypass the feints and the jabs of Billy Joe Saunders early in that fight. What you want him to do is figure out, is to create creative ways to enter the pocket. If you can get him to creatively enter the pocket and learn how to stop a guy escaping so you can keep him up on the ropes and fire off those sustained attacks, and then when you're done, you step out, you take a walk, you reset, you're in safe danger, you're safe from danger, you reset, and then jump back in and go to war. That's what you want him to be able to do. A raiding pressure fighter where he raids on his terms and he pressures on his terms. Instead, what you saw is a lot of posturing and far too low volume, particularly in those first 4 rounds. In rounds 5 and 6, he reverted more to the inside game. He was taking a few risks, just jumping in really with shots, which wouldn't work against an elite level opposition. But you saw that, when he did let his hands go, he was affecting Morrison. But he wasn't able to do it often enough. Morrison does carry a bit of pop. Eubank seemed to feel that. He wasn't willing to take too many risks. But it just doesn't bode well for Eubank, this current Eubank, if he was to step in even against a 39-year-old Gennady Golovkin. I understand why they're talking about Gennady Golovkin. At the end of the day, Golovkin is now 39 years old. And when you have a 39-year-old guy and you fight the way you do, and like I was explained in the past, Gennady Golovkin is the sort of guy who likes to cover up, deflect shots off the elbows and the forearms. And then after that, he goes to work. You finish your work, then he goes and does his work. So the idea from Eubank is if I jump in and I start throwing these flashy, fast combinations, I can get him to cover up. And then when I step out, if I'm able to step out quickly enough, he won't be able to follow me out as effectively, and I'll be able to outwork this guy and eventually even wear him down. He's 39 years old. That's the thought process. But to be able to get inside to do that, you're going to have to bypass the most statistically accurate jab in the sport, which is a thudding, destructive jab. You've got to find ways to do that. He's got to work on slipping, on coming under shots. You know, he's got to look at ways to get inside creatively with feints. Not just that, let's look at somebody like Andrade. Andrade on paper, he should have a chance against, because Andrade's a fast starter, but then he tires. So you're sitting there and you're thinking, Eubank with that engine, if he puts it on Andrade, late on in the fight, who knows? You saw Andrade tire against Williams. But the fact of the matter is Eubank going to be able to be creative enough to get past the slippery stuff that Andrade does, even if you just walk straight over to him? Andrade puts his body into awkward positions, and from there he rolls with these big counters. You saw Korobov, it was just one round, but you saw Korobov, you know, set those traps for Eubank, and I expect that Andrade would do the same. I am only speculating in a preview video. I did speculate about what might have happened in that sparring session against Venom Page, Mike Venom Page, but he's the sort of guy that probably did stuff like that to Eubank too. Go back and watch that video, you'll see what I'm talking about. But the point is, you saw how Eubank reacted, because he wants to put, you know, up the tempo essentially to force a guy into not being able to get away with that. That's great. That's your weapon. In which case, use that. Set the tempo early. Create a scenario where he's having to work even if he doesn't want to work, instead of all the posturing and stuff like that. So far, I have to be honest, I'm disappointed with the debut of Roy Jones Jr. along with Chris Eubank Jr. It doesn't mean they can't improve. They might go away, look at this, and Roy might say, you know what, this hasn't worked for you in the way I'd hoped. Let's try this instead. But so far on yesterday's performance, I wasn't particularly impressed. Let me know what you think. Now from there, let's move on to Spider Richards, Craig Richards, who, listen, man, he gave a really good account of himself against Dimitri Bivol, who is a wonderful, wonderful fighter. A lot of people don't understand the things that Bivol does, in my opinion. I think a lot of what he does goes under the radar. But with Richards, you know, you have to understand, he's a very good fighter that took a massive, massive step up. He's you know, established himself now that he can, at least from a technical boxing perspective, that he can hang with elite level guys. He was able to hang with Bivol. You know, I wouldn't back him to last the distance against somebody like Beterbiev or even Joe Smith. You know, I don't think Bivol's the same sort of aggressive power puncher that some of the other guys are in the division. But in a straight up technical boxing match, he was able to hang with him. And, you know, in the past, we know that he lost to Frank Buglioni via a unanimous decision. And to be honest with you, I had him losing the Alan Higgins fight as well. That was just his 8th fight. That was televised on TV. That was for a Southern Area super middleweight title at the time. And I felt he was outworked. I felt that Higgins was able to freeze him up with body shots and then work upstairs. And then when he was stepping out, he was getting caught with shots on his way out. And I thought it was a very controversial decision. A lot of people were calling for a rematch. It never happened, and Richards moved on. But he's come on a long way since then, and you could see he did very, very well. However, when I say he did well, it was still a very easy, wide win for Bivol. There was one moment, one round, where Bivol seemed to struggle a little bit. He started getting caught with a few shots consecutively, again and again. But by and large, you saw that he was... he does these little movements, something that you tend to see a little bit from Chocolatito, whereby he'll be standing right in front of you and he'll land a shot, and it's just a little slip of the head, and that shot will go over one shoulder, and he'll throw a fluid combination, then a little duck, a little roll for the following shot, and then let go of another combination, and he's still in the pocket without even having to move around you. Then when he decides he wants to step back out or move around you, he does. He's such a good technical boxer. But a lot of people were sitting there and they were saying, listen, this is proof that Beterbiev destroys him. Listen, it doesn't quite work like that. Okay, well done to Richards. He did well, but it still was a wide win for Bivol. And just because Bivol's a technical boxer, it doesn't mean that, you know, he's not a seek and destroy type guy. It doesn't mean, therefore, that because Beterbiev is likely to knock out Richards, that this is somehow proof that Beterbiev beats him. You know, it's a different style of fight. Same things that we've spoken about. We've spoken about Usyk at heavyweight. Usyk might not go up and beat up and knock out a guy like Chisora, or indeed many other durable heavyweights. It doesn't mean he wouldn't beat the top guys, though, because he can outbox those guys. He doesn't have to beat them up. This is also a scoring sport, right? And that movement that he's got, that fluidity, it really is a beautiful thing to behold. The light heavyweight division in the UK, by the way, is on fire. I mean, think about this, right? Imagine an 8-man tournament of Lyndon Arthur, Callum Johnson, Anthony Yard, Joshua Buatsi, Craig Richards, Shakan Peters, Callum Smith is supposedly stepping up now to light heavyweight as well. And then maybe Hosea Burton as well. Imagine a little 8-man tournament like that. You know, there's a lot of talent here. A lot of these guys have sort of made the step up. A couple of them made the step up, fell just a little bit short, gave really good accounts of themselves. They both had their opponents seriously hurt. Yard with Kovalev and Johnson with Beterbiev. So you know these guys can hang at this level. And it's just such a brilliant division here in the UK domestically. There are so many fights that can be made. Hopefully we get to see them all, particularly now as well that Bivol has fought on British soil. Hopefully British fight fans will want to see more of him, and it gives British fighters the opportunity to step up and fight guys like that as well. But it also enables Bivol to hopefully kickstart his career, because for the talent this guy has, he's really not on the lips of enough people, in my humble opinion. I think he's, like I said, certain things he does that I think are brilliant. Much like Joseph Parker, he can be a little bit left-hand dominant though. And I do want to see him work on bringing that right hand into play more. You know, sometimes he's happy to just do enough to be winning the fight on points, probing and landing the correct shots, even when they're fluid and they're nice hands. For me, if he brings that left hand into play a bit more, you start to see a much more destructive, if he brings that right hand into play more, sorry, a much more destructive Dimitri Bivol, which might capture the imagination of the fans a lot more. But I think ultimately the fight we all want to see at the moment is in this division is Dimitri Bivol against Beterbiev. It's a beautiful clash of styles. You know, you've got the fluid boxer with fantastic distance control and very, very underrated defense in the pocket, who likes to throw, you know, fluid combinations where his hands are stretched out. He's releasing them, you know, fully, and every shot puts himself into a position for a follow-up shot. He's moves like water, so to speak, against a beast-like hunter with incredible short power in Beterbiev. You know, that clash of styles. Beterbiev will want to get close and try and walk him down. Bivol will want to maintain range and throw those flash fast combinations. And you have seen Bivol caught now against Smith. You saw him get caught a little bit with Richards. Would he be able to survive something like that? You know, it would be a terrific fight. I would tentatively, very tentatively lean towards Dimitri Bivol to do enough and hold on and not get stopped. But let's face it, Beterbiev's stopping everyone. So, you know, you really want to go down that route. It's a fight we all want to see. So, yeah, great fights, great card. I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, guys. Yeah, thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.